Dear Mrs. Goubet-Melot, dear Mrs. Sumpot, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your warm welcome. It's a pleasure for me to have the possibility to talk to you, and I thank very much for this invitation here in Paris. Today's event raises key questions about the long-term strategies for Europe's energy and climate policy. The events of the past year have shown that decarbonization is now more important than ever. Let me highlight a few topics for further consideration. The shock caused by the Russian invasion of Ukraine may have led to a temporary shift in focus. Security of supply and affordability of energy prices dominated the discussion in the last year. However, the decarbonization of energy supply remains one of the greatest challenges in Europe. Priorities have not shifted away from climate neutrality. We are still committed to our common long-term goal of becoming the first climate-neutral continent. This implies negative impacts of national or European emergency measures need to be reduced to a minimum. The scale or speed of the green transformation needs to be increased. With the European Union Green Deal and the Fit for 55 package, Europe kicked off promising reforms of the European regulatory framework. We need to finish this work now. We need to establish an adequate cross-sectoral framework for additional investments in future-proof alternatives. Germany has taken further steps to accelerate the energy transition in the past year. And in France, the Assemblée nationale has adopted far-reaching measures to expand photovoltaics, onshore and offshore wind as well. The French grid operator RTE currently estimates that electricity generation from renewable energies in France will have to be doubled by 2035. France and Germany work together in the North Seas Energy Corporation, NCEC, together with all other countries which living close to the North Seas, to promote offshore wind energy and hybrid projects. We have projects for 300 gigawatts and a big challenge in the supply chain. While acknowledging the national energy mix, there is a EU-wide agreement that renewables must play a leading role in energy supply. The massive expansion of renewable energy and the creation of a green hydrogen market is key for successful industrial decarbonization. To reach climate targets, a fundamental transformation of industrial production processes is needed. The transformation is based on efficiency, electrification, hydrogen and hydrogen derivatives, for example, methanol or ammonia, as well as CCS, carbon capture storage, for the last emissions. Target funding instruments together with carbon pricing and effective carbon leakage protection create a reliable framework for industry that enables investment and spurs the transformation. The German federal government advocates a sound and consistent European framework for climate-friendly and competitive industry that protects against carbon leakage. Germany is also working on an ambitious regulatory framework to tackle carbonization in the heating sector. In the moment, it's very intensively discussed in Germany. In parallel, we have to pave the way for future key technologies and the European Union's strategic energy sovereignty. This includes developing a fully functioning hydrogen market and the corresponding hydrogen infrastructure. There's a broad consensus on the importance of hydrogen in achieving both climate neutrality and strategic energy sovereignty, even if we differ sometimes on the color of hydrogen that we prefer. Hydrogen is central to the strategic autonomy and competitiveness of our industries. One practical use case is, for example, Salzgitter, a project to produce green steel at the Salzgitter steel mill, where Minister Robert Habeck and EU Commissioner Kadri Simson visited only a few days what happened there and what's planned in Salzgitter. And the ongoing German-Franco cooperation on company level, like the joint venture between Air Liquide and Siemens Energy regarding electrolyzers, is an encouraging sign for the market ramp up across Europe. Anyway, a functioning internal hydrogen market requires the corresponding infrastructure that brings hydrogen to the relevant market players. So, the essential next step is to establish a common European hydrogen backbone, including first and foremost the connection of Hy to Med from the Iberian Peninsula to France, further on to Germany. The internal market for electricity has so far delivered a secure system, even in a very difficult situation like in the last year, when Russia tried to destroy the grid in Ukraine. It was a really difficult situation for all of us in Europe, and I was very happy that we have so close friends and good neighbors in the European Union. The Energy Council worked very good together last year. We had to decide some very difficult things, but we were always happy to have our neighbors here to solve these problems together. And when we're looking to the grid, I think there's no need for hasty short-term changes. Improvements may be necessary to make the market design fit for the energy transition. Decarbonization and integration of larger shares of renewables and hydrogen power plants as backup solutions. However, changes need to be well prepared and should be based on an impact assessment. Therefore, we support the ongoing European debate, a targeted reform focusing only on no-regret measures. No-regret measures are, in our view, for example, improving hedging and long-term contracts in order to let the favorable production costs of the renewable energies reach end consumers, strengthen the role of reserves, and reduce flexibility barriers. Energy-intensive industries face tough international competition. Triggered by the Russian war against Ukraine, energy prices in Europe have risen dramatically last year. We saw a price about 20 times higher for gas than the year before. Even tough, electricity prices in Germany have been decreasing substantially over the last months. They are still well above internationally competitive levels. This represents a twin challenge. It puts into jeopardy our international competitiveness, and it hampers the transformation of the industrial sector to climate neutrality. This transformation requires electricity from renewable energies at competitive prices. And that is why the German Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action has presented a concept for an industrial electricity price. It compromises two steps. In the long term, a transformation electricity price should make electricity from renewable energies available to industry at low prices. For this, energy-intensive companies must be given direct access to renewable electricity. One approach to achieve this is to improve the framework for power purchase agreements, shortly PPAs, for example, by reducing the risk and thus the cost of these contracts. This approach is already covered by the European Commission's proposals for a reform on the electricity market. Another approach is to support through contracts for difference, CFDs. The strike price resulting from auctions for these CFDs could then be forwarded to the industry. This mechanism is of a purely financial nature. Note that this mechanism does not require direct subsidies. The CFD approach is also covered by the EU Commission's proposals to a reform of the electricity market. However, we would prefer to use the benefits to privilege the energy-intensive industry. Until the long-term transformation electricity price is available, our concept proposes a temporary bridge price of 6 cents per kilowatt hour for energy-intensive companies. It works similar to the CFD approach, but it is independent of renewable electricity production. So, if the price and the power exchange is above 6 cents per kilowatt hour, industry would get the difference as a subsidy by the state. Again, this mechanism is of a purely financial nature. That means industry would buy electricity on the market independently of this financial mechanism. We do not want any distortions of competition in the European Union here, but a European solution to a general European problem. The above mechanism should be open to all member states. Member states that do not have the financial fiscal leeway to support their industry should be enabled to do so, for example, by using community instruments. I hope that together with the European Commission, we will arrive at a European solution. In my view, our proposal could be interesting for France too. As far as I know, the RRENH mechanism ends in 2025. Without a follow-up mechanism, electricity prices for industry in France could increase substantially. So, we are interested in your eyes to deal with this challenge. We would be happy to work together with France and the European Commission on the issue of internationally competitive prices for electricity. Many important milestones still lay ahead of us. And it is true that Germany and France often have different approaches in energy policy, especially concerning nuclear energy. Solving the persisting disagreements and not allowing them to block the much-needed transformation in Europe is important now. Germany considers renewable energy sources to be preferable, ecologically as well as economically. Costs for renewable energies are continuously decreasing. However, Germany respects diverging choices for other fossil fuel energy sources by other member states, as France, that may similarly contribute to achieve climate neutrality. What we cannot accept is when nuclear energy is defined as renewable or low-carbon hydrogen is equated with green hydrogen. Moreover, European financing can only be for the technologies all member states agree on. A common solution to such a fundamental question would be a strong signal, even if Germany and France work together on this item. Our joint solidarity declaration on the mutual supply of electricity and gas of last November, it was a Franco-German declaration from the 25th of November, signed by our Chancellor and the Prime Minister Elisabeth Born, is a perfect reference for such strong Franco-German cooperation. So I hope we will work good together in the future time with all the challenges we face because of the decarbonization of our industry, our common goals, which were fixed in Paris. The Paris Agreement was born in Paris, and it was a masterpiece of diplomatic what happened there, because that were 196 states have to join for one goal. And so many thanks for your attention, and I hope that we keep in contact to discuss about future challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much. I had a lot of questions for you, but time is running. I cannot ask all of them, but maybe I will ask you this one. So 2 days ago, the French president was in Potsdam, in the hometown of the Chancellor. So we see that there's a special bond, of course, despite the, you said it, you mentioned it yourself, the relationship can be complicated, but there's a lot have been said regarding the relationship between France and Germany. What do you think their role could be in this acceleration of the European decarbonization strategy? Just very briefly, I know it's a tough one, but I'm sure you love challenges.
France and Germany both have a strong civil society, strong non-governmental organization. And I think if you differ, for example, and you think about different ways, it's the best opportunity to find a good path. And so it's quite normal in a democracy that we discuss different solutions, and then we normally find a good common path where we can work together. And Germany and France are two strong motors of the European Union, and so I'm very hopeful that we always find good solutions.
Thank you, Stephen Wenzel. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.